Hi guys, it's Didi here, and in today's video I want to talk about breastfeeding in general and breastfeeding kids beyond 1 year or 2 years of age, so breastfeeding toddlers. And the reason why I want to do this video is because it saddens me how often moms who choose to breastfeed their babies beyond a year and sometimes even beyond 2 years are a subject to such a stigma. One of the reasons why I decided to talk about breastfeeding openly is because recently somewhere in my Facebook feed I read about a story of a mom back in my native country who breastfed her little baby in a shopping mall, and then the security came and told her, you're not supposed to breastfeed here, so they basically throw her out. And it's not only that, but after that, because this became a popular news, she wanted to sue the country, and I think she managed, and in the end she donated all the money to a charity. But what saddened me was the reaction of everyone in the different forums. So most people, instead of being compassionate and instead of supporting her, which I thought they would do, were exactly reacting the opposite way. They were saying if she has a little baby, if she wants to feed her baby, she would rather be home, stay home. She's not supposed to do that in front of other people. So something which I did not expect from a country where women openly walk outside with their boobs like that. So it's not a problem if you're a sexy dressed, it's a problem when you feed your baby. And the other thing is that lots of moms in my group, for those of you that you don't know, I have a baby feeding program. So I talk to lots of moms. Many of them commented that although they are breastfeeding their babies, they feel the push from family or from health visitors or from, even people who work in healthcare to stop breastfeeding their babies. When it comes from health professionals, I am beyond surprised that this can happen. And that made me decide to do this video and share my story as well. I breastfed Mika for about 27 months, and honestly, I wish I continued beyond that point. Breast milk is the best milk for your child. It has the right amount of nutrients for your kid and vitamins and minerals, but also it's specifically tailored for your baby. When breastfed kids have a lower risk of tummy problems, of diarrhea, of lower respiratory diseases, of ear infections, potentially of allergies, and then lower risk of meningitis. And even if they get sick, they recover much quicker than kids who are formula fed. Also, breastfeeding may protect your child from obesity, and there was a big analysis of all the studies that were done in relation to that. We don't know why yet, but one of the reasons is that breastfed babies have more leptin in their system, and leptin is the hormone that is responsible for telling your brain, yes, I had enough, so I don't want to eat more. Breastfed babies are usually fed on demand, or at least that these are the recommendations, which means that breastfed babies self-regulate themselves. They eat until they're full, and they're not going to eat even if you push them and give them more. There are other benefits as well from breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is super cheap. It doesn't cost you anything. It's very environmentally friendly because there are no costs for packaging or for production and for transport as well. It is so much easy, makes your life so much simpler. You don't have to buy bottles, you don't have to get up at night, produce and get the right temperature for the milk for your baby. Makes your life much easier as well when you want to travel because you always carry your food with you. Another benefit of breastfeeding is that it's healthier for you, the mom, because there is research now that relates breastfeeding, especially if it's over a year, with reduced risk of ovarian cancer and for breast cancer. At the same time, moms who are breastfeeding have a lower chance to get stressed and have postpartum depression. One of the reasons for that is the release of oxytocin, which is the happy hormone while nursing. But why breastfeeding a toddler? Lots of people have this belief that if your child is over 6 months or over a year, you should stop breastfeeding because it's not healthy for the kid. He can become attached to the breast. It cannot be further from the truth. It is actually much more beneficial if you continue to breastfeed your child during the toddler's age, because this is usually the time when you go back to work, when your child goes to a nursery or kindergarten, and when they're there, they're exposed to much more viruses than when they're little babies in a different environment. Your breast milk does not change, and if it changes in a way that supports the immune system of your child rather than being against it. So the belief that the breast milk at a certain stage get rotten and it's not healthy for your child is a belief that I don't even know where it came from. It doesn't make any sense. If you study the history of breastfeeding, you see that baby were breastfed usually at least up after the second summer. Summer was a tough period in the life of kids at that time because due to some digestive problem or viruses, lots of kids could die. So lots of moms would prefer to breastfeed their kids at least after the second summer. And they studied the history of baby feeding. The whole notion that breastfeeding is outdated or it's not cool and you shouldn't do it developed almost at the same time when the baby feeding industry developed back in the 1930s, 1940s of the last century. There is a reason why we started giving solids to our kids earlier, because the food industry pushed a lot about that in the 50s and in the 60s. And second, there is lots of reasons why moms stopped breastfeeding in the middle of the last century. This is not anymore the case. I am so happy to see that the percentages of moms who choose to breastfeed is on the rise. And moms, at least, even when they work, they manage to breastfeed their kids in the morning and in the evening. So if you have a toddler, know your breast milk is perfectly suitable for them, and in fact, it protects them even further in a time when their immune system is still very vulnerable. Also, it ensures that you give them a skin-to-skin contact, which lots of moms in the busy day forget to do. When you're breastfeeding, you don't have a choice. Whatever you are doing, you have to put your top up and have skin-to-skin contact with your child. And as we all know, skin-to-skin contact is so important for their cognitive and psychological development. Another thing is, if your child is sick, when you give them the breast, the chances that they'll recover are so much higher. Breastfeeding toddlers is as well great when you travel, because you carry your food at all times. And especially when you go to a new country, sometimes the kids don't want to eat the food that is there. I remember we went to New York when Mika was exactly 2 years old, so 2 years maybe and 1 week of age. And it was super hot. He did not want to eat anything for 6 days apart from watermelon, melon, and I think grape. That was all he would eat. But then I did not worry at all because he just got more milk from me. So he was breastfed more often. And as I said, I stopped breastfeeding Mika when he was 27 months of age. And the reason why I stopped was that I thought that he became a little bit too obsessed. I was not breastfeeding like most moms, only once or twice a day, but I would breastfeed like 3 or 4 times a day. Every time when I come back from work at 6 o'clock, he'll want to eat, and then when I put him to sleep, and then in the morning, and then before I go in the morning to work. So he would really get much more milk than any other kids, and it became harder for me. I did not do it in a natural way, so when I stopped, I was with him, but he never, through the first 2.5 years almost, he never got sick. So even if he had just a little bit of a cold, he will recover very, very quickly. And he's been in contact with so many kids at that time. When I stopped breastfeeding, 2 months later, he got sick and he had the first cold he has ever had, and then it turned into really nasty pneumonia after that. And I really believe that the breast milk helped him be so healthy for such a long period of time. One of the reasons again why I wanted to make this video is because I met so many moms who have 2.5 years old, and my sister as well. My sister child is 2 years and 4 months now, and she's still breastfeeding. And they are hiding, many of them, the fact that they're breastfeeding because they don't feel comfortable sharing it. There is such a stigma among lots of people in the Western countries that breastfeeding toddlers is such a horrible thing to do. And honestly, how can you make it? How can you allow that to happen? That people are choosing to hide something which is so natural. Many cultures breastfeed until their kids are 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 years of age. And I've read, when I did research about the cross-cultural practices around the world, I found so many people who shared that their parents in the 50s and 60s and 70s in, for example, South American countries were breastfed until they were 6 years of age. Human mammals, human babies, are made, according to research, to be breastfed between 2 and 7 years of age. So don't think that a toddler is a toddler and they don't really need to be breastfed anymore. So moms, if you want to breastfeed your child, and if you choose to do that, that's perfect, that's great, keep doing it. And if somebody around you is telling you, oh, you should stop, it's not nice anymore, you have to consider weaning your baby off, just tell them to shut up, because it's you and your baby, and you're doing something perfect for them. And there are lots of myths around the breastfeeding. For example, moms sometimes would stop breastfeeding because they'll think that their breasts will suck. That's not the case. It's not the breast milk that is doing it. It's the pregnancy hormones that stretch the ligament and not the breastfeeding itself. There is another myth that most people object if moms are breastfeeding or they're seen breastfeeding in the public. Again, that's a myth. Out of 1,000 people, probably 2 or 3 would comment, but our brain works in such a way that we will just remember the rejection rather than everybody else who is encouraging us. Last year we went to Palma de Mallorca. Spain is a country where people openly breastfeed, and there was a mom who was walking with her friend. She was crossing the street on a crossway. She was holding her baby, walking and breastfeeding with her breast out her baby in Spain, in a city called Palma. So, depends on the cultures. Cultures like that would readily accept it. Cultures like in the US are looking into that in a completely different angle and they don't accept it. I'm lucky to live in the UK. In Norway, in London, I felt that people are reacting negatively to my desire to breastfeed, and I breastfed everywhere, like on benches and cafeterias, wherever, it doesn't mean that I show my breast everywhere. I can always cover, but no one ever reacted in any bad way. So I'm leaving you with that, guys. If you're breastfeeding and you consider weaning your child off because of somebody else, tell them to shut up, breastfeed your baby as much as you want. And I'm sure that if more of us are breastfeeding openly out there, then people will get used to the fact and they'll stop reacting negatively to something which is such a natural thing. I hope you found this video useful, and I hope you expand your view about breastfeeding. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing to do for your child and for yourself and for society as a whole. Please leave me a comment below how you feel about that. Do you breastfeed your child? If you don't, what was the reason not to? And I hope I'll see you next Tuesday. Give me a thumb up, share my video so we can popularize the breastfeeding among the world. And I am going to see you next Tuesday, guys. Bye!